All right, let's see if the computer will get up for us today. We're up. All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 4th, 2025. It is now 9 a.m. We're here for a special session in the Hunt County Commissioners Court. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order, and we have Commissioner Hutchins, Monroe, Smith, and Harrison present. I'm Judge Stovall presiding over the meeting. At this time, we'll have public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. Do we have anybody sign up? Anybody wish to speak? Being none, I'll close the public testimony. Old business, there's none. New business, the consent calendar. Commissioners, you have the consent calendars for 2 items, and in the motion to approve, we need to add that the $32.43 on both line items 1 and 2 will be paid for out of the repair and maintenance out of the sheriff's budget, not out of the SB 22 money. The cars are being bought with SB 22, but that's that repair insurance we get. So I entertain a motion for approval with the stipulation that the $32.43 maintenance and repair will be paid out of the sheriff's budget.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We don't have any budget amendment. We didn't get any of those, did we? Okay. Action item number 1, fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Commissioners, the proposed budget that was filed on August 15th was made up of comments from the court, public, department heads, and tried to hit as many of the concerns that were addressed in the meetings. The proposed budget has no cost of living raises for any employees. It had 4 deputies added to the sheriff's department, along with all the necessary equipment to outfit them. That was brought down by the sheriff from 7 down to 4. Nearly every department, most of the departments had cut their budget. Some either by them cutting it or us cutting it. The road budget for the precinct budgets, the commissioners had agreed to hold their spending at last year's number, which generates about $1,289,000 in revenue for Fund 10. And there was still some concerns and talk about the capital improvement money. The budget had addressed in the capital improvement money that we'd move $1 million out of capital improvement into contingency line item in the general administration, and that money would be funded out of our savings, not included in any tax rate money. And the objective was to have a balanced budget. When it was presented, or when it was filed, it was pretty close to being balanced. Since then, we've had some additional raises that the state gave our judges and prosecutors. We've had some other requests come in that had to be fulfilled. So it's bumped up now to we're about $180,000 negative balance in our budget, plus the $1,180,000 is what's the deficiency. Commissioner, I feel like the budget that's been presented is something that we have to do. We butchered the budget last year, cut it drastically. We made cuts this year again. We didn't give raises. We moved money out of savings to try to shore up the budget a little bit and keep it the tax rate as low as we could put it. But this budget still puts us back in the same spot where we're, kicking the can down the road. And when we come in here next year to start talking about a budget, we're going to have to address some cost of living raises. That's going to be a necessity. And then I'm assuming all the commissioners will want all or some of their money they forfeited this year back, which is $1.2 million. And just a small 2 or 3% increase in wages, I think equates to about $1 million, Sandy. Isn't that about what it is for 2 or 3 cents, or 2 or 3%? So we're going to be right back where we have been for the last several years with a deficit budget, not enough revenue to offset it. And if we keep going down this road, we're going to wake up in a few years and we won't have any savings left, and we won't have money, and we're going to have to start cutting positions. We're going to have to start making some big changes. And I don't think that's the way to go. Part of our job is, we're politicians. We have to get elected and we set the rate. Other than that, we don't make up anything. We don't create any rules to speak of that create any requirements of money. We just do the things the state of Texas tells us we have to do. And they're on us about not spending any more money, and public is too. We understand it. But the state of Texas, they redistricted, and we're going to have to spend thousands of dollars now to redo the maps, to redo all the voting, mail out new voter registration cards. They don't fund any of that. That's going to end up coming out of our budget. They in the report, I'll put it up in the next meeting, but it's a 10-page calculation for the tax rate. In it, they've told us or led us to believe that they're going to reimburse us for inmates that stay in the jail over 30 days. It's supposed to be picked up by the state to go to the penitentiary. They allow us to put that in that calculation. They also allow us to have that they're supposed to increase their share of the indigent defense. Indigent defense this time was like $1.1 million. The jail was around $350,000. The only place we get any benefit of that is in the no new revenue calculation, and it just allows us to tax the taxpayers more money. It doesn't. They're not paying us anything. They're telling us we got to raise the money from our taxpayers to make up that difference. And so they're not doing us any favors. They didn't help us. We didn't get any help. Well, if we don't go to no new revenue rate, we get no help. If we go to no new revenue, I think the increase of the no new revenue rate was like 1/10,000th of a cent or something like that. So they're not giving us any money back. They're not giving us any help. And we got, Sheriff, do you know we still have the inmate in there that's been in there for so long? They're supposed to be waiting for a bed at a mental hospital? Yes. He's over 1,000 days now, isn't he? Over 1,000 days in our jail that we're paying for, waiting for a bed for an incompetent individual who has to go to a violent mental hospital. And the state hadn't done their job to build any more hospitals. They let them all go. They closed nearly everyone down 10 years ago. So now they're trying to rebuild them, but they're so far behind. I don't know when they'll ever catch up. So we're paying for this individual for 3 years. Over 3 years, we've been paying over $100 a day to keep him in our jail, where the state should be dealing with that. So I'm concerned if we don't pass the budget as it says, that as the state continues to send things to us, the way we have to calculate our tax rate now, and the last 4 years, 5 years, this will be the fourth year we've had the new property is what the only new revenue basically that we've been having the last few years. And first year I think we could get it was around just under $2 million. Then it went up to $3.2 million we got in new revenue from new properties on the roll. Then it dropped last year to 2.2, and it's about 2.5 now. My forecast next year I watch business news all the time and try to keep up with it. It's always been my interest. The president's saying he's fixing to declare an emergency on housing in the United States because we're not building enough houses. There's not enough out there. There's houses that aren't being built now. Some are being built, not being sold. We'll still get tax dollars from those. But it's going to take a while to ramp all that up. I mean, whatever's going to be on the tax roll next year is 3 months from today. It'll be January 1st of next year. That will be the basis of what we get. I've talked to the chief appraiser. There may be one industry that will be coming on the tax rolls. The one at 1570 and 66, the new one that does the wrap. I don't remember what the name of it is. They're building a pretty good sized facility that some of that's already on the tax rolls, but not all of it. Other than that, there's not probably going, he didn't know of any other big property values that will be coming on the rolls. He said the housing, it looks like it was either going to stay the same or go down, other than maybe some pockets. So new revenue, any increase in revenue for next year, to me, doesn't look bright for value off a new property. And we're going to have, we're going to be trying to catch up, next year, almost $2 million, maybe a little over $2 million. If we replace the county's precincts budgets, $1.25 million, and $1 million for salary increases. We're be in the hole next year of needing $2.2 million in new revenue to get to where we could have a balanced budget, and we'll be lucky to get that in new property value. And certainly won't have any room in next year's budget to do many things. So that's my concern. Still trying to, as I've said many times, I'm one vote. I'm presenting it with my thoughts and my best guess at what all is going on. And I'll take any questions, or y'all got comments. Happy to hear them. If we got comments or we got concerns or changes, we need to work them out today. Next Tuesday is the first day we can start the process of voting on the budget and the tax rate. For the public, the state changed the rules. Now we have to post for meetings 3 business days. So if we don't get it passed next Tuesday, we'd have to file Wednesday to have a special session the following Monday. I think that's right, Daniel. Was that right? We'd have to file it early Wednesday morning to have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we could meet Monday morning. If we don't accomplish it then, we would have to file it early Tuesday to have one on Friday, and then the next Tuesday would be our regular session. And after that, I don't think, at the 26th, I don't think we can get another one in after that. Not with the way the calendar lies. So that's the 23rd. Yeah, we could get one in. We could get one more in. So that's all the information that I have. Any questions? I'd like to hear them. Any comments? Any suggestions? I'm all ears.
So, Judge, just one clarification, and Bernice gave us the handout. So you've already moved $1 million out of the capital fund to
Yes.
cover, okay.
It was moved. I think they gave it to you on highlighted. I may have misspoke at other meeting. I might have said it was coming out of fund balance, but I forgot we actually moved it out of contingency. That's the way the budget was filed. But it's on the transfer in and transfer out. Transfer out the capital improvement, the transfer in to general administration and into the contingency expense line item.
Judge, I appreciate your comments, and I think there's, we're certainly right to try and look into the future as much as possible to anticipate needs. I think if we were to make a few adjustments, we could get this down to very close to what would make the no new revenue rate possible. For instance, we could cut about $500,000 out of contingency. Instead of going to $1 million, we could go to $500,000 there. And I still think
Mark, that $1 million doesn't affect anything. It's moving money out of savings. It's moving it over into Fund 10. That doesn't change the tax rate by moving that. That didn't help anything.
it could be put toward other costs elsewhere in the budget. So it could be used for some facility projects. I think the number we've been talking about was about 640,000 increase there for various maintenance, facility repair type projects. So it could certainly be redirected to that in that way. Or we could simply transfer, that amount, 640,000, from capital improvement, as these are actually capital projects, and that would be a significant savings and significant reduction of the deficit as well. If we get the deficit to pretty close, we all want to eliminate it, but if we get it pretty close, then we know from looking at our history of funds remaining unspent at the end of the budget year, that we'll probably have a couple million across the whole county. So it's not a huge sum from any one department, but there will be a couple million in unspent funds that'll stay in the stay in the fund balance, and so we won't have to dip into that. So next year, our fund balance will be higher. The beginning fund balance will be higher than was projected at the beginning of this budget year. So if our concern is to not draw down the fund balance too much, I believe a few small cuts that get us close to the no new revenue rate, make that possible, will accomplish that, not draw the fund balance down. In fact, if we stay in the $1.5 million range of the deficit, looking at historical recent history, I think would probably make a net positive contribution to the fund balance at the end of that budget year. So.
Is that it? Sorry.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's possible, but it's back to what I was saying. If you move the million, if we move the million in contingency, we don't spend it, then next year, the only thing we have to deal with is getting y'all's money back and giving raises. Now, if you're going to take money out of capital improvement and spend it down in the budget, now you've just raised that number up to close to $3 million. So next year, now we got to swallow $3 million instead of $2 million. And that's the argument I make. We're just kicking the can down the road, and we end up in this same discussion every year of how to get this done. And we got to bite the bullet sometime and say we're going to draw the line in the sand. And this isn't even drawing the line in the sand. This is just saying it's a step forward. That's all the budget that's presented is saying. It gets us a step closer than what we've been.
I said I didn't want to go through line items on anything, but I just have a question on one Bernice handed out on the radio tower project, we're putting 750 in there for next year. What, is there still ongoing stuff that we've got to purchase?
As far as, of course, I think that's still being paid for out of ARPA funds, isn't it? Bernice? Yeah, I think, Steve, some of that's coming out of ARPA funds.
Okay.
But yes, the radio tower's not finished yet. We're not up yet. We're having additional costs next year, both facility-wise. They've got to go inspect the generators and whatever else equipment out there that they have to go do monthly or quarterly. We're going to have light bills out at all of those. We've got maintenance fees to L3 Harris. That may be what that is, Steve. I'll double check and let you know.
Well, it's just with it listed as radio tower project, it looked like it's an ongoing project instead of just normal yearly maintenance or agreements or something like that we got to pay for.
Well, I think by looking at the budget this year, we'd had 2.07, and we're still like at 872. So I think that number is the money that is just left over to finish that project. I don't think that money would have been there if we'd have finished the project already. But we'll check it and see. Make sure we'll let you know.
What is our total expense projected for next year?
Total expense, that's not the right sheet. Bernice, do you have the latest one? I don't think I picked up the latest one. The one in the,
It's 53, 474, 565. Is that the right number?
that probably is in the proposed budget, it was 53, 382, 867, and it has raised over $100,000 since then. Do you have that, Bernice? Do you happen to bring it? I picked it up, but I picked up the wrong one. It's close to 53 million.
Yeah,
The mark read off is real close.
I had written down 53, 382, 867.
I think that's,
And then this year I wanted to make sure I have 54, 263, 887. Does that sound right for the proposed year?
don't, the original with
It was at 56, and then we cut, I know we took $1 million out of the precincts, we didn't
Yes,
do
the
COLAs, we cut sheriff's budget and other, so I think we're down around 53, 54 million.
53, 382, 867, no, excuse me.
That's last.
55, 322, 670 was what was proposed. And that was with y'all taking out y'all's money and everything else.
Yeah. But then you've made adjustments.
But we
since
made
they
some
get it to
adjustments since
54.
then, yeah.
Because I'm trying to baseline myself because it looks like we've only grown $881,000 year over year on the budget.
Yeah. Bernice, can you pull that up on your computer?
So what are you showing, 50?
260.
So Judge, the year proposed was 33,982,4. That was going to raise 53,574. So that's basically going to cover the expense. And that's taking money out of capital, that's taking money out of precincts, that's doing no raises, that's cutting departments.
Correct.
So on a no new revenue rate, we're at 51 million and some change. So that's about a $2 million. Well, if you pull that money out of capital, which we have, and you bring that down, like you say, if we keep pulling out of that savings account, which I agree you need to use some of that money out of the savings account, but you don't need to spend all of it. But what we have to, and I'll be the first one to say, I do not want to raise tax. I'm just like everybody else. I hate paying taxes. But what I'm looking at is not only right now what is going to affect today, but what's going to affect not only next year, but several years down the road. Because this housing market, yes, we're getting new money right now, but this market, it cannot keep staying like it is. It's been inflated for many, many years. There's a lot of foreclosures out there. Houses aren't selling like they were. Yes, we're getting these D.R. Horton houses, but that's just putting more and more cost on the county and that we're not really getting reimbursed for. And so on that, what I'm worried about is we've cut out the precincts, which we did that trying to help to get back to zero right now. But we can't do that again next year. We already don't have enough money in the precincts. You can't not give people a COLA raise. I'm not talking about a raise. I'm just talking about cost of living raise. You can't do that year after year after year. So what I'm looking at is I want to be fair. I want to try to find a way to get it where it works for everybody across the board. And yes, let's strive for no new revenue. But right now, I don't see how that a no new revenue is going to work because we're starting out next year. Yes, we have a balance this year, but we're starting out in the hole just on the precincts and on the employee raises. You're starting out over $2 million in the hole. And so I don't know how that works. But when we make this decision, whatever we make, whether it's no new revenue or we go to your proposed or we go in the middle of that, that all needs to be taken into effect, that it's not just what affects today and what looks good right now. It affects next year, it affects the following year, and the following year. I don't want to get into a spot where we have to start furloughing people, laying people off, or we can't do things that we have to do because we didn't sit here and we didn't budget right one year. And we try to just go to nothing just to look good. And I'm not saying that nobody's doing that. We're all on the same page. We want to get it as low as we can. But this decision is more than just looking good today. It affects many years down the road.
Well, David, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, we all wish it. I pay a lot of tax. I got a lot of property, so I don't want to pay any more taxes, but it is the cost of doing business. It's to pay tax, and it's our responsibility as citizens. If we want services from the government, somebody has to pay for it, and it's the taxpayers. I wish there was a different form of revenue. Not aware of what it is. I know there's some talk about it in our state house, but they don't know how to do it either. So until somebody comes up with it, this is what we're stuck with. But make one additional add on to one of your comments, David. Horton is hurting us also, and any of the other big builders are hurting us because they're leaving their prices up, which affects everybody's valuations, but they're buying down the interest rate and buying down expenses to the seller. I've heard as much as $90,000 in perks that they're giving to the buyers, but they're keeping the sales price up. So that when it turns and it gets better, they still got their sales price is going to stay up there. But that's causing homeowners to be up too when they're doing that. So it's big builders don't do us a lot of favors, I don't think.
Yeah, and that comes from the state because they're the ones that give them the permit to build it.
That's
And
right.
Our taxpayers and ourselves, we're the ones having to pay for all the infrastructure that, or not the infrastructure, but putting the strain on the sheriff's department, school districts, county roads. I mean, everything, and we're getting hardly nothing for it. It's never ending.
The one subdivision we talked about at the last meeting that Horton had sent in over close to Roy City, one side of it was a dirt road, and they said they were not putting any connections onto that road, so they weren't going to pay to upgrade it.
Yeah, and
They may get away with it. I don't know.
They want precinct 2 taxpayers to pay for it.
That's right. But, you know, David, you're right. I mean, if we go down to no new revenue with Mark's comments, now next year, we're gonna be at about 4 million or 5 million, which is about where we were this year when we started out, trying to catch up. So we're gonna be back maybe further than we were this year. And it is what it is. Like I said, I'm one vote, but I'm not in favor of going backwards.
Judge, how much do we have in capital improvement today?
Oh, around 14 million.
And how much of that is designated to a particular project?
Well, the estimate for Puddin Hill is 8.3 for the construction, and we don't have a budget number on what the cost of moving it's gonna be, moving everybody out. But then you got, on top of that, the things we talked about when we went that direction, is we're gonna repurpose everybody but juvenile probation's leaving this building. We were gonna repurpose this for some other office space. The county clerk's moving out of the courthouse. We're gonna repurpose that into another courtroom. We gotta find room at the courthouse for HR department to have more room. The IT department is spread all over the courthouse. My plan was to move them into the auditor's side of it and then relocate the auditors into another location. We've not put a number on that yet because whatever number we put on 2 or 3 years ago, it wouldn't be right today with the way all the costs have gone up. But it's going, I think when they did Joel Littlefield's courtroom, which was the newest one that was put on, I think they spent about $500,000 12 years ago building that courtroom. Now, it was, I think they had to remove some walls and do some additional stuff to make that one work, but I don't know that, it doesn't appear to me that we should have to do much because the clerk's office is wide open and that's a perfect scenario for the courtroom. But until we get some of these things down the road, that's been the whole purpose. And that money, you know, I've talked about it several times. Nobody intentionally got that money put in. The bulk of it came because we got 19 million from the government and ARPA funding that we were able to offset some cost with. And when COVID hit, we got $2.5–3 million of revenue to help offset some expenses. So we got, in 2021, I think it was, we started getting money in from the federal government, over $20 million. And that had helped us to, you know, do some things that we hadn't been able to do. And one of the biggest things it was able to let us have some money now, because we're not going to get a bond passed. I don't think the voters are going to pass a bond in the near future. And the only way we can survive is paying for it. And we're set up, if we continue down the road that we've been trying to go down of getting Puddin Hill and getting a new courtroom, getting some people shuffled around in the existing building, that should hold us for 5 to 10 years if we keep up about the same growth. And maybe by then the climate will change, the revenue sources will be different. Maybe there'll be a better way to do it 5 or 10 years down the road. But if we don't do something, we're, you know, again, I think I said earlier, you know, part of our job's political, part of our job is to run a business. And it's hard to juggle those two. If we try to run it as a business and make it as efficiently we can, sometimes that makes it go up on the taxpayers. And if the taxpayers, they don't like that, but then they don't get services and they don't like that either. And I don't blame them. I'm in the same boat with them. That's the balancing act we struggle with every year, is we got to have money to provide the services. So we either cut services or we raise a little money. And I think the 1.6 cents on average home, I don't have the slide with me, but it was a little over $80 a year. And I haven't looked yet. I know the city of Greenville, they were able to go below the no new revenue rate, so I assume theirs is going down. I don't know about the schools. The state said they were buying down the school funding, but I haven't seen anything that says they did that. I don't know if it's coming in future years, but the Greenville ISD, I don't think they went down any. I think their tax rate's the same or a little higher. So I haven't looked at the other, I just noticed a few of them in the paper.
And in the very near future, we're gonna have to deal with the jail.
Yep. Jail's staring
I
us
don't know
right
where
square
we're
in the
at right
face.
now, Sheriff, if we're still bumping right at full or not, but that's something we're gonna have to tackle in the very near future as well. Otherwise, we're gonna be paying a lot of money for another jurisdiction to house our inmates.
If we can find them.
I think Dallas County just come out and they're at max capacity now as well in the last day or two, so that's gonna be a concern.
Judge, I think part of our job is also to watch out for the taxpayers. And I understand that's difficult. I'm not saying you're not saying that too. But I almost don't want to bring it up because I don't want to go back over it again. But I have said before that if we're going to entertain the idea of a tax increase, and it's on the basis of all these things we need to do, those things need to be listed and put in a plan and have money, at least estimates of what it's going to cost, so we can take that to the taxpayer and say, this is why. I don't think we're at that today. I'm happy to take lead on that if we need to do that, but we can take all these projects and rather than estimating, we're going to need some amount in the future. We need to put a dollar amount on that. Because right now, I'm looking at it from the taxpayer's perspective, and I'm going, yeah, I want services, but also they got $5 million over there in a capital improvement fund that's not designated to anything. And so I need to understand why I'm going to be taxed more when there's money there available, not to pay for salaries. There's no danger of laying people off. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But not for salaries, but for these capital projects to go add new AC units to buildings, whatever. There's a list of things in the facilities submitted with the facilities budget. There, if we want to go through that line by line and cut out a few, we can. But I'm okay paying for all of them out of capital improvement.
But by definition, capital improvement is not replacing air conditioners, repair and maintenance. That comes out of repair and maintenance budgets.
Then let's take everything that's not designated to a specific project and move it back to the fund balance, and we can budget out of there. And nothing should be in capital improvement unless it's designated to a specific project, in my opinion. But there is an excess over there right now.
You can do that, and it's like I said last time, I think, it's like when you get married, and you go and you work hard and you save up $20,000, then you have a kid, and then you have to start hitting your savings account, and then you hit another kid, and now your savings account's gone. Now you're on a credit card, and pretty soon you're broke or just living day by day.
The difference
And that's your philosophy of doing all that. I mean, it's okay if the world was different, where we could still go to the bank as a county like they used to could and borrow $2 million or $5 million if we needed to go do a construction project. But we can't do that anymore. Everything we do, we got to go to the voters for it. And that's okay from a perspective of the public and all, but the public doesn't run this job. They've entrusted us, they've elected us to do those things, to keep those services up, as well as keep their rates low. And that's what I'm saying. It's a juggling act. It's a hard act to try to work out. Yes, nobody wants to pay any more taxes, but we have to provide services. I want to know when I call for an ambulance or I call for sheriff's office, I want them to show up. If I go to the tax office to pay my taxes or register a car, I don't want to sit over in a line for 2 or 3 hours like we used to have to several years ago. And I don't want us to go back to that. I don't think the public wants to go back to that. They're going to raise Cain if we go back to that. Why aren't y'all fixing it? So we're walking a tightrope.
Well, I'd like to say, just to be clear, I wasn't insinuating that we were going to lay employees off, or there's been no talk of that. I was just giving an example of things, if you run out of money, things that have to happen. And that would be one of them, is because employees is one of our biggest costs. So that was the only reason I gave that example, to be clear on that. Second of all, I would suggest, I'm not for depleting all the capital improvement, but I'm not opposed. I feel like that we should pull a little bit more out of it to maybe fund like voters administration project, or maybe a roof project that we have, those kind of things that I know that have been said that we're gonna be doing. The voters admin, we don't have a choice but to take care of that. That is a one-time occurrence. We could pay for that out of capital. And then history, it shows we usually have about $1 million to $2 million left over at the end of the year. So if we spend a little bit out of your capital improvement, we're gonna have probably $1 million to $2 million left in the fund balance next year that we could replenish that money with, or that money could be used to give raises and to get the precincts back where they need to be, because that would be $2 million there. There's different ways of getting there. We just all have to agree how we're gonna get there, and it's not that one person's right, one person's wrong. We just gotta figure out a way that makes the best sense for the taxpayer to get there.
Yeah, I think the word that has been used twice here is nobody has a right or wrong answer here. This is philosophy. This is how you go about attacking a problem. You can attack it, with cash. You can attack it with revenue. You can attack it short term. You can attack it long term. Maybe you split the difference and you tread water a little longer while trying to get ahead. There's not a wrong answer. And I think that's one of the things that our society's got us in. Somebody has to be right. Somebody has to be wrong. There has to be a major winner and a major loser for everything. So I think the philosophy here, so having the conversation is good. The one thing, and I agree, nobody wants to talk about furloughing and all those things. But when I take that and we say, okay, that's not what we're talking about, but that's about 70% of the budget. And so if labor is 70% of the budget, you leave 30% out there, that's about $16 million. You take 5% of that, you're looking at $800,000. So when you start talking about reduction, it's not about do you move revenue out of this bucket into that bucket and this cost into that bucket. Is there places where costs can go away? And and I'm talking about recurring costs, not your one-offs. And if recurring costs don't make sense to go away because we're trying to provide the services, that's where you have the conversation about what's the impact of revenue. And I think that's the one thing we have to make sight of is if we're only looking at a bucket of $16 million where there's opportunity, and I don't think anybody sees whenever I go through the budget, department by department, over half of them are underrunning a little bit or proposing a little bit less. The ones that are increased, we've all acknowledged the increase and the need for that. So I do think that answers somewhere in the middle. Judge, first of all, I do appreciate that you took some capital money out. I know that's been a point of conversation before I got here. And then the one-off conversation, I think, is something we need to finish. But so I'm going to go ahead and say what everybody else has already said, so I'm on record with it. But we can't leave ourselves to where that we're in the whole $2 million this time next year having the same conversation. I think we can shrink a little bit from where we're at, but we have to leave us a path to that. If Judge, I was unfamiliar with the numbers, and so as you talk about the new revenue conversations that we've had, first of all, I would have thought they would have been larger with a forecast for them to be larger. So if we're looking at, we're basically flat this year to next year to this year, and if we think it's going down next year, that actually creates a different set of problems. So whenever I go and I look at revenue that was needed this year to balance the budget, I'm on state facts, but I'm really asking a question. So the revenue needed to balance, we had 1.6 cents per hundred. That creates about $2.25 million of revenue increase. You've already done a transfer of capital. That was $1 million. And then the road and bridge, donated. I'll call it donated because we're feeling like charities right now, right? $1 million to the cause to try and help. $1.2 million. Yeah. And so, and which was important. If we're asking the sheriff to, challenge himself and figure out different ways, and other folks as well, it's only fair that we try to participate in that. But we've we've added, compared to last year, $3.25 million to the revenue bucket. And so you can argue if you don't do some kind of rate impact, which you actually have a $3 million problem, right? So I say all that to kind of go back to Commissioner Hutchins. So, Mark, when you were first speaking, you were talking about some selected cuts and things like that, So what did you have in mind? I know you made the comment about the contingency, but I mean, I'm talking about, are you seeing anything on the recurring side where it looks like we're fat, that we just budget, X millions of dollars more, I'm exaggerating, than what we actually spend that isn't need to be there? Or what kind of cuts are you looking at that you think are, and not just the capital side, I'm talking about recurring cost?
Yes, thank you. Good question. So I would like to see, as far as cuts, I haven't actually proposed a cut, although I'm certainly happy to go that direction. My sort of recommendation was to change the funding source for non-reoccurring projects to the capital improvement rather than to new tax revenue. Now, I'm happy to also, if we need to find additional cuts, to go through line item, line by line item. But that was the first thing I wanted to suggest. We can do line item by line item, but I want to make sure that the court, before we go that route, I want to get an idea of where the court wants to go with the rate and budget.
So, but and like I say, and I'm new to this, but just a quick ballpark, if we're not talking about people, which we're not, 5% across the remaining budget's $800,000. That's where I'm trying to figure out where the opportunity is in the line item by line item conversation. I'm good with that, but I'm trying to figure out, because I'm trying to see, I've got 3.25 that we've picked up this year through various ways. And so I don't see how we are reaching an offset for that so that we're not hurt next year.
Well,
Let me clarify one thing, or comment on it at least. Some of you, or all of you have said that we've had excess money in it every year. Well, this year, our projected deficit at the end of this month, is we projected after the bills were paid last meeting, it looks like we're going to be $1.2 million in the hole this year that will hit the fund balance. We had projected it a little higher. We still don't know where it is. After today, after Tuesday, we'll have another better handle on it, because it's just a guesstimate. We don't know what's coming in. But I'm saying that to say that we have multiple departments that they're over budget right now. We're going to have to make some movements in the last meeting in this month to clean those up. We can't have a deficit budget at the end of the year. So we're going to have to move not a huge amount of money, but around $100,000, $200,000 looks like it's going to be that we're going to have to move into cover some departments that have overspent their budget. So with the moves that's happened the last couple of years on pulling the spending in tighter, which is good, we're getting it tight enough now that it's starting to show. When we start having departments that are spending more than their budget, we're getting real close to being pretty thin. Now, not all of them are there, but there are several of them that are there. And if we continue to go down this path, we keep cutting and cutting, we're going to get to a point where there's nothing left to cut, except really, as Gary said, people. It's the biggest part of the budget, and nobody wants to cut people. So I'm just cautioning everybody, we don't want to go down that road. We can go down the road, but it's not going to be good for future courts.
Going up a cent is going to generate how much?
$1,575,000 roughly.
Gary, to answer your question, there are a number of departments that, I think it answers your question, There are a number of departments that have reduced budgets over last year. I don't know how much of that was a true reduction or if that was pulling the enterprise program out of a lot of them and moving that over to the debt service
That's some of it.
budget. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's some of it, and that's about, that enterprise line item in the debt service is about 720,000. So that's really more of a lateral move. It's not a cost saving. Then there's a $415,000 increase to general admin. There's about 131,000 increase to HR/risk management, which I think is just to reflect increased insurance costs. Then we had higher utility costs, about 278,000, and then of course we had some increases to sheriff's office, and I'm not sure exactly what y'all's number is today. I know y'all came back multiple times to reduce that, and I appreciate y'all working with us. And then in facilities and maintenance, we have about a $642,000 increase, which is primarily, well, there's a project list that was included with the budget request. But if we were to fund that out of a capital improvement, that would significantly aid the deficit, in my opinion. So that's the first thing I would look at. I think that's
All of that or the facilities piece?
the facilities piece. There's also some other increases we can look at, for a second time. The courts have some increases, but I think that's mostly state mandates driven, so probably not good to look at that. And I know some of the district courts have been holding their expenses down really well. There's an increase to JP2. Had an increase, I think that's for new position or increased position. They're requesting JP11, JP12, JP3 and 4 all had reductions in their in their budget. So there are some smaller line items to go after, but I think that would be the big one. But if we don't want to look at that one, then we can go. I'm not sure what the point of going through trying to save some pennies from some other line items would be, though I'm certainly happy to do it. But that's the bigger number right there, or a bigger number. And that's without going through other budgets line item by line item to try and find additional cuts.
Well, we cut facilities tremendously last year, which is just deferred maintenance on a 100-year-old courthouse, a 100-year-old exchange building. This building is 75 years old, I think that's right. 50 to 70 years old, I don't remember. We got a jail that's 20 years old, and it's in the worst shape of any of them. The budget for air conditioners at the jail is going to be a reoccurring because there's 39 units on top of that jail that are going to have to be replaced, and we're trying to do them 10 at a time. So that's kind of the way I think they were done. So they're in the past, so they're starting to have some that are failing, and they know the age on them. So they're trying to get rid of the ones that are older or the ones they're having the most problems with before we get there. So that is a reoccurring expense. The change in the capital improvement, or not capital improvement, excuse me, general business was we cut the capital murder expense in there that was requested budget at 250, and y'all cut it to zero, or we cut it to zero. And we've already spent $244,000 this year on capital murder. So you can't line item pick and choose. It's very difficult. Made it very difficult for everybody this year that has to deal with the budget every day, is because we're having to move money around more. We're having people that are getting delayed because they don't have money in their budget. They got to get a budget amendment or transfers made to be able to get a project done. It just makes it a very uncomfortable part, and very encumbrance on our people trying to do their job. And that's costly. It's not efficient. So if you're going to start trying to cut line items, I'd be real careful, because it's not a good practice.
Judge, do you recall what the proposed amount was for the election equipment that's required?
A couple of $100,000, I think she said. And we're probably going to get more now that they changed the Senate. We're going to have to redo it again. They moved the Senate line through Hunt County. So we're fixing to have to,
So
I don't know when
changed.
I assume that's going into effect for March. I haven't heard if they're going to try to shove that through into a March primary. I heard somewhere they might move the primary to later in the year, next year. Has anybody heard anything on it? I haven't. That's all I've heard was probably rumors. But, yeah, we're going to go through that routine again that we just got through doing. Almost in the same area.
So most of it would be the same. So you think
It's
it'll
going
add,
to be in the same area. I mean,
but you think
where-
it'll add more voting polls still, even with that?
Probably, because the old congressional line was center line of 276, and south of that was Pat Fallon, north of it was Keith Self. And when it went 276, it cut straight across, I think almost straight across into the lake, all over the Rains County line. Well, now they've come out from Rains County, I think it's the same line, and about the time it hits Quinlan, it goes about 45 degrees to the northwest to a point, and then it turns and goes back southwest to 276 and goes on. So there's a big triangle south of probably, if you can imagine where that triangle is, it's right below all the ones we just changed. It will affect some of them. It won't affect them all, but it will affect 2 or 3 of them probably. Now, it may end up helping us since we having to change it a different direction now. But my guess is it'll hurt us.
Judge, just so I want to restate what I would like to see done, as other people are thinking about it. And I'm one vote. I understand that. I understand that there are competing priorities and it's tough to balance them. But I think we need to continue trying to hold expenses as much as possible for departmental budgets steady, which we're doing. I think that's a good move. I think we've had some overspending in our past that we need to correct for, and I don't think we can fully correct for that in one budget.
We've corrected it the last 2 budgets.
And so what I would like to see done is to have 640 for facilities transferred in from capital improvement, or we can move that money, all the undesignated funds back to the fund balance and budget from there. I'm not, either way, it works for me. And then we reduce the budgeted amount for contingency from 1 million to 500,000. And we can move that money to other line items to fund projects. But I think that'll be a good reduction. And next year, I again think, and again, I'm happy to take lead on this project, but we have to develop a plan and an expectation for what our expenses are going to be in the future. You say we got 30 units that need to be replaced, you're planning 10 a year, well, we should be able to put a dollar amount to that. So so we have a better expectation going into these budgets of exactly what our needs are. It's not theoretical, it's a hard dollar amount. But until such time as that, I'm unwilling to raise taxes on personally, very loath to raise taxes on the taxpayers. That family, that new family you described earlier, the different thing about that analogy we can't forget is that we are taxing those people for this proposed budget, increasing their taxes. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them as well.
Mark, I understand the principle on the facilities money. I'm curious because some of my past experience, deferring maintenance of any kind is a mistake. I think everybody probably agrees with that. But there's very significant definitions associated with that, right? As far as what's capital improvement and what's maintenance. I wouldn't want to go so far as to take everything, the 642 total out if it's a maintenance item. And the main reason is I don't want to leave the budget for the maintenance department short, and then next year, it's got a run rate that it needs to have. For me, capital has to be something that truly is a one-off so that it doesn't affect your execution the following year by doing that. So is there room for conversation with you on what's a one-off expenditure versus just the whole facilities, budget there?
Well, I'm pro conversation, so there's ample room for conversation. I think, if we were to try and do something more approaching a zero-based budget, then we should be looking at departments like facilities every year and saying, hey, what are the projects that need to be done this year? Looking at amount. Currently, we're effectively just looking at the amount they spent last year and then seeing what needs to be increased above and beyond that. But there may be years where there's fluctuation from that, where some years we may need to spend less, some years we need to spend more. And so I think we need to get to that point as well. So the fact that their million was, their budget, I'm just making up a number, was 2 million last year, doesn't always necessarily mean it has to be 2 million this year. We need to know what they're going to spend it on. I've looked at the list that they presented with their budget, and it seems like a solid list of maintenance items. So I think it would be wise to try and get that done. But we can do so without hitting the tax rate to do it.
Well, I'm going to remind you again, we got old buildings that are decrepit, and we got a jail that's falling. I mean, we got a grease trap over there that's been out for 2 months, I guess, or longer, and trying to get it fixed. It created a void underneath part of the kitchen area. That was totally unexpected. I don't know what that's going to cost us. It's not cheap. We had 2 or 3 water line leaks under there that also was going on at the same time that was expensive to fix. You can't, Mark, what you're saying, it seems like that'd be a real simple approach and way to do it, but it's not when you're dealing with old equipment and old buildings, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And we lost 2 elevators at Exchange Building 2 years ago. That was unexpected. We got one at the courthouse that we're still putting off, I think, another year, that needs to be replaced. That's $600,000 or $800,000 we put off. Try to do it next year, but it breaks down once a week. A lot of these items, I mean, this isn't like running your own business where you can really control your expenses and can really control, and you really got full knowledge of everything that's going on, because it's such a big animal, and you got so many different people that are responsible for different things, and some of them we can't tell them how to do their job. We can't tell another elected official how to do their job, even if we got a great idea for them. So you can be a lot more efficient. You could do this, you could do that, but we can't go tell them that. It's their deal. We have no say so. All we can do is cut their money or give them more money, and that's the only say so we have over it. So we made some good strides in the last couple of years in our budget. We've got it cut down fairly thin. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. We're already $2 million in the hole going into next year. We're going to be a deficit budget this year. We've got it thinned down already. it's getting riskier, and then, you know, with the people saying that they're getting foreclosures and all, there's housing in middle state is due for a correction, and if it does, now what do we do? Because now our revenue goes down. Now our tax base goes down. And in an operation the size of this, not having $1 million in contingency, I think is irresponsible, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And we've got it in there, and it's no impact to the taxpayers. And if we have to spend it, we spend it. But it's budgeted to spend if necessary. And I don't think a budget of our size cannot have that kind of money.
Can I make sure what you just said for language for me?
Okay.
It's budgeted to spend, meaning you have the authority to spend it, but you're not taxing to get it.
No.
It's money that's already in the savings account, so
It's
to
money
speak.
moved out of savings account to the revenue side of the budget, so that in case we need to spend that budgetary authority, it's there if we need to spend it. And
It's not money we're going out and asking the taxpayer for.
nope,
So if we take that out, how's that gonna affect the tax rate?
won't change it at all.
We're not taxing.
Doesn't affect it.
I think the one thing, and like I say, all answers are good because it's philosophies about how you get to something. And there's short-term versus long-term. For me, I still look at, to get to a balanced budget, we've had to raise the revenue line $3.25 million, right, between road and bridges, capital, and the 1.6 cents. And we know that $2 million next year, roughly, between what has to go back to road and bridge and taking care of the people, you know, next year is still a gap. That's my concern at the no new revenue, which I really want to go. So I'm the new guy, so I'm gonna put something out and try and do a segue in the middle, because I think you can improve, but you just take longer time to improve rather than trying to do it all at once. I don't disagree with the judge about where we're at, just trying to see if I can get there over a little longer period of time. If we dropped to 1 cent, that would be $1.5 million of pickup on the revenue. However, it's a reduction from the $2.25 million that we're in, so it's $750,000 more or less down. So that increases our deficit $750,000 when you do that. Okay. You've got the election equipment, that's about $200,000. Mark, I would respectfully agree and disagree on the capital. I think we go evaluate those things that are legitimate capital expenses. Anything that offsets a recurring plan or what should be a recurring plan hurts us. If we take money out of a savings account to just take care of our electric bill, taking money out of the savings account to pay off your credit card is a good thing, but if you try to have to do it every month for your electric bill, you're running out of money. Contingency to me, no offense to anybody, I just think that's a paper move. I don't see it adds any value one way or the other. It's just making sure you have the authority to go buy something in the case of emergency. So that would get us, and depending on the capital, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the capital, anything that's a one-time expenditure we could do. If we got that, so if we had the election equipment, 200, maybe a little more, the capital thing of about 500K, that would offset the deficit that we just increased by dropping to 1 cent. That gives us a 1 cent bump for the next year's budget of $1.5 million. We'll still be a little bit shy, you know, to the 2 million that the COLA needs and the road and bridge will need, but it kind of gets us in a positive direction, just not all the way. Just as a thought, and like I say, it's all philosophy, so everything is a, you know, give and take on this.
Well, and Gary, again, it doesn't have to come out of capital improvement. We can have a deficit budget and it comes out of our fund balance,
Okay,
and it does the same thing. I mean, it's taken out of one pocket, left pocket, or take it out of the right pocket.
it doesn't bother me at all. It's just what account you're taking it out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's money in each of them.
So to be clear, when you do a deficit budget, everybody views that different, but we have X amount of dollars in fund balance. The only way to spend that fund balance down is to have a deficit budget, and you spend that deficit,
Correct.
correct?
You can't spend it if you don't budget for it. It's just the same way in y'all's departments. You gotta budget. If you got an excess in your fund balance, you can spend it, but you have to budget for it in the budget year, and then you can spend it down.
So just because we say we have a deficit budget doesn't mean we are in bad shape. That just means that we're trying to spend the fund balance down.
And if you do, and
And that doesn't
There's
necessarily mean you have
four-
to spend it all.
right, there's $4 or $5 million excess fund balance, I believe. We're required to, the policy's been that the fund balance for Fund 10 is 25%, and so we're over a $50 million budget, so it's something over $12,500,000 is what our fund balance floor should be. And we're at 18 or 19, 17, 18, 19. Bernice, you remember? I don't remember what, something like that. So there's money there.
So if we go no new revenue and we have our deficit, we run a deficit and we have to spend all that, we're pulling our fund balance down.
Yes, and you do it about 2 more years, and then you don't have any room to move. You're done.
Yeah. I'm just asking questions. I'm trying
No,
to
I know.
understand, and I'm
Right.
trying to educate the public as well.
I understand. That's good questions.
To be clear, capital improvement is not fund balance.
Yeah. That's
It
two
is,
separate-
basically. I mean, Fund 45, capital improvement came out of Fund 10. We moved money from Fund 10 over to there, but because it came from Fund 10, it's still tied to Fund 10. It's just we allocated it into that fund to earmark it, that we're going to use that money for capital improvements. And the court voted unanimously to do that, and the court did that when we had bought Puddin Hill, when we were hiring an architect, and we'd got an estimate of like 13 million, 12, 14 million, whatever it was, I don't remember. And so we moved 15 million, so we thought we'd have enough money to build the project and get it moved and get it set up, and we'd be there. We were setting that aside for it. Everybody agreed to it. Had 3 different votes on that project. And then we found out later in the game that they changed the rules again on ARPA, which allowed us to use our remaining money in ARPA on it, which was $5.3 or $4 million, and then the rest of it's got to come out. We're trying to get it bid right now to see where we're at. We don't know if the 13.3 is an architect's estimate, so we don't know where that's going to end up. But then on top of that, as I've said, we're going to have moving expenses, and hopefully our furnitures will all work where they need to go, but I'm sure there'll be something that we'll have to buy that is going to be different than what we're anticipating. We're doing it hoping that everything gets moved over there. But as you move your house, you got to buy new furniture, different furniture. It don't fit. So we will have some of that. And then, at the same time we were doing that, we talked about the whole plan. The whole plan has always been, no, it's not on paper, no, it's not, but it's on record. The court talked about it and said, this is where we're going. We got to get a courtroom. The district judges are needing help desperately to have visiting judges come in. We're not very far away from having to get another district court. That's going to be real expensive for the community. All you have to do is look at the budget of one of them. Their budgets are a little over $1 million, I believe.
So Judge, you just identified a pretty good list that has some pretty good dollars associated with it, I think.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's coming at us, $1.3 million about is the district judge's, or district court's budget. So if we have to add one, we're gonna be facing that in the future. So, I mean, you can't have too much money in reserve.
So how do we, so the capital funds goes back a few years, but it's not real old, right? That's kind of a,
Probably 3 years.
and so how do we feed the capital fund, or is it something we move money to and
We
we're just
move,
slowly?
we move money out of the fund balance, Fund 10, over to Fund 45, capital improvement.
So is that a recurring thing? So
Nope.
anytime the fund balance reaches a certain amount, we move it to capital?
Nope.
No? So there's not a replenishment for the
Nope.
capital
There's
budget?
no replenishment for it.
So we have the money that we have, and then when we spend it down, it's gone?
Right.
And so then we'll just be back to Fund 10 balance?
Right. And where we're at now, it's probably gonna be all spent. So really, either we're gonna put all that off and live with what we got and make things very inefficient and keep spending our savings down and go to the voters later to get some new buildings built and hope they pass. But when that does, if that happens and it passes, you're talking about, the jail, Van Zant County's building one now. It was 250 million, I think. Sheriff, do you hear the number? Yeah, I think that was the number I read in the paper. It's
50?
250, and it's the same size as jail we got, which we could have built for 60 4 years ago. 5 years ago now, probably. There's nothing cheap to build anymore, and anything that we do big is going to be hugely expensive. That's been kind of the theory of, the Puddin' Hill just kind of fell in our lap, and it's a perfect building to renovate because it's just a big warehouse. There's no walls to tire out. There's no nothing, just go and start building walls and rooms, and it's going to be a lot more efficient to do it. We got to put some plumbing and electricity in it. It'll be a little different, a little more expensive than if it was done from scratch, new, but it's not that much money. We're going to refurbish some buildings that we already have. That's the best use that we can have that I know of, not going and building new facilities. We bought enough land out on the interstate that, if Hunt County goes the way McKinney went, the way Rockwall's gone, the way every small town around, every county seat around us that's grown rapidly, every one of them have moved out of the downtown area out to the interstate somewhere. Most of those are downtown areas have renovated. They're really, a lot of them are very attractive places to go. Rockwall's very attractive and all, and they're fixing to have nobody in the courthouse downtown. And Daniel, they're moving everybody out.
Everybody except for the
Commissioner's Court will stay there, and of course McKinney's totally out, and Kaufman County's moved theirs out on the highway 175. They still may have some downtown, but that seems to be the trend there where it's all going, and it's because the downtown is hard to renovate if you got all government offices down there, and that's been the driver around. Now, will that change? I don't know, but what I do know, that's what's been going on. And so the interstate, that building area out there to me was really nice because it made it easy for the whole county to get there. It's a lot easier to get out there if you live in Caddo Mills or Quinlan or Commerce. It's a lot easier to get there than it is to get downtown. A lot more convenient. But that's off track, except that's what's been talked about, what the court has discussed, and the direction we've gone. And now, Mark, you keep wanting to stop it because it's not written down on paper. And I don't comprehend that. So actions of the court don't matter. Words said during court amongst all of us doesn't matter. You just get to set the rules and say if it's not on paper, it's not a plan. And it was talked about in open court. The public's been able to watch our sessions. They've had every opportunity to be informed. Could we have done it better? Is that a better way? Probably. but it's hard to do it when you don't know how it's all the dominoes gonna fall. So back to you, Gary, if you're wanting to go that direction, I would just leave the capital improvement alone, just change the budget and it'll go negative and it'll just come out of the fund balance. But you're gonna kick it up to 2.7 million or whatever the number is. You're just kicking the can harder down the road.
What was that last number? What was that last number, Judge? The 2 million? What was that?
Well, you said it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You said you were going to go. You were going to take get it down to a penny. The 0.6 of a cent was going to be $900,000. So that's going to bump it up to $3 million. So if you're going to take around $900,000 out of the, if you're going to
I get it, because I'm just using the round numbers at
Right.
0.5. As
Okay.
the 0.6 is the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you only make the change to the tax rate and you lower it to a penny, the only thing that would change is the revenue, and then it would send it to a deficit budget by whatever the
750,000. More or
about
less,
that
or-
more,
or,
yeah, whatever that number
maybe,
is
yeah.
for 0.6.
Well, and I was saying, but the
really
other
900.
things that are non-recurring, one-time offs, can we cover those to get that out of the budget so the deficit's not as large?
Right. But we've cut it hard last year. We cut it some the year before. We cut it again this year. You're getting to the point there's not much to cut
Yeah.
until you cut people. And that
was my thing,
That's where we're getting to.
Because if you only have $16 million where you can really cut, it's, 5%, it only gets you $800,000, so it's not a.
It don't get you there very quick. So do you want us, Gary, is your request for us to lower it to a penny and get that information to you?
That would be an answer for me. I don't know if that's a court conversation or to vote on or.
Well, we can do
Or
whatever
just a-
they ask to.
or
We can do
it's a what if.
multiples.
Do
Yeah,
the
we can
what
do
ifs.
multiples.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to see that.
get it a penny? Bernice, you taking notes over there? Okay.
Can you do a 0.5 cent too, Bernice?
A 0.5 cent down or 0.5 cent up?
0.5 cent down. If we just increase the tax rate, bump it up a 0.5 cent.
Okay, so tax revenue for a 0.5 cent increase above no new revenue.
So you'll have 0.5 cent, 1 cent, and 1.5 cents.
Well, 1 cent's $1,575,000. So.
Should be around 750.
Yeah, around 750 is gonna be a 0.5 cent. But we can run those. We can sure run that.
Judge, I'd said a number earlier. I wanted to make sure that I didn't say something that wasn't true. So the difference between the current year expense budget and the proposed expense budget, I was showing that it's just, right around $1 million difference. Is that about right, Bernice? I don't, that we grew $1 million.
As far as total budget or total revenue or what?
Total budget, what the proposed budget is.
The
for
total
expenses.
expenditures?
Yes, sir.
I don't have, since I picked up the wrong sheet, I don't have the most current, but I can get you close.
Because I pulled the numbers off the various things that we have, so I think I'm right, because what I did want to say on that is, from my understanding, and so I'm half of this time period with this budget, But we started off with about $4 million of deficit by the time we
No,
got
it was bigger than that, I think. I think it was like 6.
6.
Yeah.
And so here we're at, you said that we're probably looking at it being $1 million, $1.2 million, something like that at the end of September is about what you think the deficit's going to end up.
That's what we're projecting right now is $1.2 million.
So I actually think the court and then all the department heads should take a nod. I mean, that's overcame a lot. And I think that's, to your point, is, yeah, everybody's cut and whittled and done everything to get to where we're at, and you're just thinking there's no wood left to whittle, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because we've cut it all again this year, and we wouldn't. Yeah, it just.
Yeah.
There's a lot of budget here. There's a lot of numbers.
Well, the variables for all those that are in business out there in corporate America, the difference that I've learned in this is the one variable that you don't deal with on an everyday basis in business is the revenue. And it's because the revenue is variable. It's also what gets collected or versus what doesn't get collected. Because one thing we didn't talk about today is some of the deficit is because we didn't collect everything that we should have collected. When you're in a business, you have a budget, and especially in corporate America, and you get to spend that budget for that year. And so that's the one thing is that there's the left side and right side of the variables. Well, there's usually just a left side on the expense side.
All right, so
Well,
y'all want us?
I'd like to ask Mr. Hutchins, is there something you'd like to see? I mean, we're all kind of throwing some things out here. Is there something you'd like Ron to look at?
I think I'm solid on projected numbers currently. So I mean, I'll look at the requested runs and see where that is, and we'll have to go from there. Yeah.
Well, we'll get those emailed to y'all as soon as we can. If you got comments, comment to Bernice, not to me. Daniel,
That's fine.
is that
Nobody can discuss things with each other.
right?
To avoid, because of the walking forum, and she can't go tell you guys everything that.
Right.
she says.
But if somebody wants to change it and do another what if, she can change the what if.
Yeah.
And then when we get to court next time, we'll have all of the what ifs to look at.
Yeah.
And if I want to do something, I can do something too. So,
But before we move on, and if you don't feel like this is something that you want to comment on or can comment on, that's fine. But as we go through this process, we've also got the state making changes, to future ways that we, have revenue or have generations. Can you comment on, does that affect us with what we're doing, or is it just part of the longer term issue?
well, of course, my understanding is the session's over, and the bill that was trying to pass did not pass. But I think the governor had said earlier, if it didn't get worked out, he was going to call another special session. Has anybody heard anything different? So
He said there's a chance that he could have one.
is there a chance? Okay. I hadn't really heard any comment because they're supposed to be in there another 2 weeks, I think, and they decided they were shutting it down, so they shut it down. The state is trying. The battle was that currently, well, for the public, for the history of it, the old way of budgeting was you couldn't spend over 8% more, have more than 8% increase in expenditures, or the tax rate increased by more than 8%. I'm not sure which one, but they call that a rollback election, which was wrong because it forced the voters to have to go get a petition to call the rollback, which I think everybody was opposed to that. It shouldn't have been on the voters and taxpayers to have to go get a petition together to force the government to do what they needed to do. So their attempt to fix that, they not only said, okay, now we're going to set a voter approval rate. So if local government, if you exceed that, you have to call an election. It's not on the taxpayers, it's on your back. You've got to call it. You don't have any choice. But in doing that, they lowered that increase we could have down to 3.5%. And a bill before on the Senate came out, and they wanted to lower that again to 2.5%. The House wanted to lower it to 1%. You know, on one of the earlier slides I'll show, I mean, inflation's 2.5%. I mean, how can, I mean, you can't, we couldn't give raises, we couldn't get cost of living raises all at 1%. At 2.5%, we can't hardly do it either. I mean, we'll reach a point when we don't have any savings and we can't do any of it. And plus, as I said in earlier meetings, we're growing at 4.5%. We've grown 18%. With 2020 census, we had 99,954 people. And January 1st of 24, we had 118,750-ish. So we grew 18,000 people in 4 years. So that's more voters, that's more people on the roads, that's more people registering cars, that's more people doing all, you know, there's more crime, there's more people in their jail, there's more of everything. And if you can't grow but 1%, I don't know how growing community can keep up with it. Now, if your values are escalating because it's growing so fast with new properties, that's okay. But we never got to that point. We're just growing around $2 million a year, which is a little over $0.015 about $0.015 on our tax rate.
Right.
That's all that's helping us.
Is that surprised, by the way, the $2 million a year that it's not more? Or is that a lagging number?
Well, it's, you know, but it's been that number over 4 years, at least 4 or 5 years. What did I do with that sheet of paper?
Is that inclusive of fees and sales tax and other revenue sources?
No, there's more of that too. That's just income or property tax. There is more revenue from all that too, you know. But yeah, it's around $2 million, and that's, like I said, that's in this year's budget, that's 2.6, so that'd be about the 1.6 cents is what we're doing right now. That's about it. We're about matching that number to get to a balanced budget. All right, so we'll send the proposals out, or the scenarios out that y'all requested. If you want other things looked at, you can ask Bernice to do it. All right. Public, got any comments? Anybody want to say anything?
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville. I'm sitting back here. Every time I come to a meeting, my wife says, "You gonna say anything?" And no. Every time I come home from a meeting, "Did you talk? What'd you say?" Sometimes I just lie to her and say, "No, I didn't." But so I'm biting my tongue.
You know this is on video.
I know, but she's not gonna watch it. So we're all
She might now.
code of silence here. I'm disappointed. I'm discouraged. I'm disgusted. I'm not disgusted that are we going to raise the tax? No new revenue, a little bit more, a little bit less. What's it going to be? I'm disgusted. I've been coming to the last 4 meetings waiting to hear something about the budget, and I haven't heard nothing even today. You guys, I'm disgusted that you guys won't have a conversation. The only one that says he wants to have a conversation is over here, but no one else will have a conversation. You're nowhere closer to approving a budget than you were 4 meetings ago. You can have 2 more meetings and you won't be any more closer than you are right now. You're just wasting time. You might as well just vote today on the budget that was proposed, up or down, because there's been no discussion about what to do, how to change it, what to do different. And I don't understand it. Commissioner Hutchins throws out an idea, and none of the other three of you say one word. Yes, Mark, I think that's smart. No, I agree with Bobby, that's not smart. Commissioner Smith threw out an idea. What about this? And none of the other three of you said one word. Yeah, maybe we ought to do that. I agree with that. Let's do that. Or no, Gary, I don't think we ought to do that. You're not even discussing the budget. And I don't understand it. Like I said, you might as well just vote on it today, because you're not getting any closer. There's no discussion between the four of you about ideas. Someone throws out an idea and nobody says good idea or bad idea. It just dies on the floor. You're wasting time with these runs. These runs that she's going to do will not change any department's budget. All it's going to do is tell you how much are we going to pull from the fund balance to make up the difference. Half a penny run, penny and a half run. All it's going to do is tell you how much we have to pull from the fund balance to balance the budget. You don't need her to run that. He's already told you what a half a penny is on the revenue. It's just simple math. So you're wasting 3 days to do a run that's not going to change anything to do with the budget, the expense, the departmental budgets, or anything. I don't understand it. You guys are going to have to start talking at some point to come to a conclusion. And I don't know why you hadn't been able to do that today or any of the other 4 meetings prior to today. I'm going to be in big trouble when I get home, but I had to say something. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And for the record, we can't vote today. The earliest we can vote is next Tuesday. By law, that's the rules. The law states that.
Andy Talley, 4566 FM 1569 Farmersville, but I'm in Hunt County. Mark is my commissioner. Gentlemen, I want to echo what this gentleman said somewhat. We had this problem last year. We ran up to the last minute to get this budget passed. Mark, you said that you would like to see some list, go through the budget items. Okay, I'm going to put it on your back. Why haven't you had that already to present it to the court, like this gentleman said about a month ago, when or maybe back in July? Now, gentlemen, I'm going to tell you something. What you vote for that you think is right may not be right for the county. If you got a problem with somebody in this court, you take it to them, get this worked out, quit going back over old matters, and let's move on. Now, I'm going to say something that y'all may not agree with. You've cut the budget on the sheriff, or the sheriff cut his budget, what was it, to 3 deputies? When we really need 4, even 5. I live out in a rural community. Mark knows where I live. We may see a deputy, and it's not the sheriff's fault. We may see a deputy only maybe once or twice a week out on our areas out there, because they're needed in other parts of the more populated county. I understand that. But when you start cutting public safety just to save a penny, you know, gentlemen, you've got to take into consideration that there's other things than just trying to save money for the taxpayers. I don't want to pay no more taxes, but yet I want to see safety. I want to see improvements in the county. My wife will not even ride that elevator for the public over in the courthouse because it moans and groans when it goes up and down. She's scared to death to be in that thing. Now, gentlemen, we need to start taking some hard looks at what's going on. And if you need to take a hard look at your county budget, it's time to step up and not just trying to be cutting taxes all the time because that's what your neighbors want. That's not the way to run a business or a county. You've got to start looking at this, and you got some deficits each year. You're gonna keep, like Bobby says, you're gonna keep kicking this thing down the road. Before long, you know, you're not gonna have any money to rely on, fall back on. I know how that feels. I ran a business one time. I was an employee, I was an owner, and I went back to an employee. And gentlemen, let me tell you, when you get down to that bare dollar that you got left to spend, and you got possible problems, you know, you begin to wonder where's this money going to come from? Where am I going to take it away from? All right, when you start taking it back from public safety or your improvements, just like Bobby says, you're going to keep this thing going down the road. It's time to step up and make some hard choices, make hard decisions, and if it includes a tax increase, then let's get this done so we don't have this problem coming up here next year arguing about the same thing that we did last year. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
I wasn't planning on talking today, but look at me. Carissa Sanders, 6400 Stonewall Street, Greenville, Texas. Good morning, gentlemen. Some of what I was going to say has already been said. One thing I do want to address is what the first gentleman said about there is no conversation. While I wasn't here, I was listening in the car. And there was a conversation happening at one point between Gary and Mark, and it was going well. And Judge, I understand you're free to speak anytime, but you said, may I interrupt here? And you took that conversation off topic. And that is a recurring problem, at least from my standpoint, because y'all were having a conversation, and by the time you finished, I completely forgot what Gary's question was to Mark. And I think Mark tried to, came back and said, I think to answer your question, and then I was totally lost. But I did want to say that there is a conversation trying to happen. It's just it's not staying on topic. It's being railroaded out, and just was it constructive criticism? Maybe if we can reduce that, more can happen. Okay, there's that. Then about savings account, and the analogy was used in a marriage: you save money and you put it back, and you don't mess with it. But if you keep taking it out, you're going to end up in trouble. Well, I don't know about y'all, but we have long-term savings, short-term savings. Long-term savings are the big things that we earmark for, such as you like to bring up often, Puddin' Hill, okay? Then we have short-term savings to take care of the elevator, which, side note, I've been listening for 2 years. And the same problems, like elevators, tax office, all these things that are is it $5 million sitting aside? I think that's what's supposed to be sitting over there to use that for, that $5 million. They're still on topic. A topic of conversation. Nothing's been done with them. Am I correct or wrong? Please.
You're
allowed to respond to questions.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anyway, so I'm just going to go with my thoughts on this. So if you have money earmarked in the savings account for long-term for Mary Puddin' Hill, and then you have this money, and from what I understand, it all came because of around the COVID time, and it was set up there, so it really built big, and we haven't done anything with it. But you have $14 million sitting there, $8 million sitting for Puddin' Hill, then you have that $5 million. All right, well, if I have a big savings account for long-term, and then my short savings account is kind of low, and my budget is really struggling, I'm going to pull some of that money out of my short term and do it for my budget. And then if I have a big issue, like let's say I have to buy a car, I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to earmark that money. So in my little brain, I'm listening to y'all talking about this, which, by the way, government is a business, because it is. Our country is a business, which is why a businessman should be running our country and not a politician. Anyway, with that being said, so if there's money that's not earmarked and it's just sitting there and we're struggling, cost of living raises, sheriff's being, he's, bringing down what his needs are. Y'all have, said, well, we'll stay where we are. There's this huge deficit. I'm confused. How is there some huge deficit that we're really going to be hurting over at the end of this next year based on this budget when you have all this money over here that you can pull from? You can. And then and I believe I heard that at the end of the year, y'all pretty much have $1 to $2 million, but y'all have to, am I not right on that? Well, forget that one, excuse me. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Talking about staying on topic here. Okay, just jump down this rabbit hole with me. I do them often. So if you have all this money sitting here, $5 million, and then my short-term savings is low, and then I need to buy things and make it through the year on my budget, I'm going to pull money. And if it's not earmarked for something important, then I can drop it down and use it. And then I'll replenish it at some point. And then you take things that are in budgets. So I believe something Mark said about there are projects that should be earmarked that are in the budget. Am I correct? There was something in there about, is it a recurring thing? Is it a maintenance thing? And there was some discussion here. All right. Well, maintenance, air conditioners need to be replaced. Okay. But replacing an elevator, that sounds like a big budget thing. So, look, guys, I'm just sitting here looking at it from my little brain. And if I can be driving down the road going, wait, why can't you use, that's $5 million. All right? $5 million. Why can't you use 100, 200, 300,000, 1 million of it? Why not? To take care of the things that need to be taken care of so that we're not talking about them again in 2 years. And there is no need to raise the rate, because with every new home brought in, yes, that's more of a burden on our county. But with the tax appraisal and the amount you get from it, it makes up the difference. You're getting money for each new home coming in, because that is more people paying taxes. There's no reason to raise our rates. You have the money, use it. If you need to move it, and continue having the conversations or trying to. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Hope
you.
that's clear as mud, by the way.
Anyone else? All right. Get my paperwork straightened out. All right, so, sure.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive. Okay, my heart has slowed down a little bit. I've calmed down a little bit. But you really do need to have a discussion about capital maintenance. What is maintenance? What is capital? Because they're different, obviously, different line items, different definitions and everything. Air conditioning breaks, you got to fix it, that's maintenance. Wait a minute, is that maintenance? You do it once every 20 years. That almost sounds like capital to me. You got a roof leak and you got to, that's maintenance. You got to fix a leaky roof. But wait a minute, is that maintenance? You do that once every 20 years. That almost sounds like a capital thing. So you did talk about we need to have a discussion about what's maintenance, what's capital, because you're discussing pulling money from that capital fund. You really ought to have a conversation on those line items and decide, are they capital or are they maintenance? I think most of them are going to be capital. When it's a 20-year deal, even though it's replacing an air conditioner, that sounds like maintenance. It may not really be maintenance. Thanks.
Thank you. All right,
Carissa Sanders. Thank you, sir. That was one of the parts where I lost track. That's what I was going to say, is about roofs and versus just replacing the air filters in a air conditioning unit and buying a whole new HVAC unit. Okay.
all right. Action item 2. Legal services contract with Terrell and Waldrop Law Firm for administrative legal review. Daniel?
We're going to talk about that after executive session.
Okay, so we ready to go into executive session then under what's that section?
551.071.
All right, so this time we'll go into executive session under 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. And we go all 1 through 4?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's take a break.
You need to make a motion to go on executive?
Not anymore.
No.
Okay.
Anymore.
Yeah, I'm got it. Just realized. Okay, let's see if we can get the computers back up. All right, it's 11:39. We're back in regular session. Under action items, number 2, entertain a motion to approve legal services contract with Terrell and Waldrop Law Firm for administrative legal review.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else before the court today? Being none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 11:39. Thank you, everyone.